Welcome back to This Day in Scottish History. I'm your host, Colin MacDonald. Today we step into the politically charged atmosphere of May 4th, 1654, a day that marked a seismic shift in Scottish sovereignty and governance. It was on this day that General George Monck, acting on behalf of Oliver Cromwell's English Commonwealth, arrived in Edinburgh. And if you're curious about other fascinating events that happened on this day in history, be sure to check out my blog at bagtownclans.com/thisday. The link will be in the description. To truly understand the weight of General Monck's arrival, we need to look at the context. The 1640s and early 1650s were a time of intense political upheaval across the British Isles. Civil wars had torn through England, Scotland, and Ireland, culminating in the execution of King Charles I in 1649 and the rise of the English Commonwealth under Oliver Cromwell. Scotland, though having supported Charles II's claim to the throne, was on the losing end of this conflict. Cromwell, determined to bring the entire British Isles under Republican rule, launched a brutal military campaign into Scotland. By 1652, much of Scotland was under military occupation, but formal union with England had not yet been enacted. That changed with the arrival of George Monck. A seasoned soldier and staunch ally of Cromwell, Monck was tasked with securing Scotland not just by sword, but by statecraft. When he rode into Edinburgh on May 4th, he did so with the full backing of the Commonwealth, bringing both a military presence and a political mission. The very next day, on May 5th, 1654, at the heart of the city, the Mercat Cross, Monck made a proclamation that would reverberate through Scottish history. There, with a mixture of pomp and tension, he declared the Ordinance of Union, officially integrating Scotland into the Commonwealth of England, Scotland, and Ireland. For the first time, the Scottish Parliament was dissolved and governance was centralized under the authority of the English Council of State in London. To many Scots, this was nothing short of occupation. The union was not one of mutual agreement, but of imposition, enforced by English bayonets and backed by the might of Cromwell's new model army. While the ordinance promised economic benefits and representation at Westminster, few were convinced. The memory of Scottish independence and the indignity of being annexed by a foreign power stirred resentment across the country. Monck's role in Edinburgh was more than symbolic. He was given sweeping powers to oversee the political and military administration of Scotland. Garrisons were stationed across the lowlands and highlands alike, and a series of fortifications was constructed to keep the Scottish population in check. Taxes were levied to fund the Commonwealth's efforts, and dissent was ruthlessly suppressed. But Monck, unlike some of his predecessors, was also pragmatic. He managed his post with a balance of stern control and political shrewdness, ensuring the Commonwealth's grip remained firm, even if uneasy. Yet, this chapter of Scottish history was not destined to last. Despite the efforts to forge a single republican state, the death of Oliver Cromwell in 1658 created a power vacuum. George Monck, ever the tactician, watched events unfold with keen interest. By 1660, with the Commonwealth collapsing and chaos looming, it was Monck who led the march into London and orchestrated the restoration of Charles II, a dramatic reversal of the very union he had once enforced. It's one of the great ironies of history that the same man who proclaimed the end of Scottish sovereignty in 1654 would help restore the monarchy only 6 years later. Monck's actions on May 4th were pivotal, not just in binding Scotland to Cromwell's regime, but in laying the groundwork for the political recalibrations that would follow. His legacy is complicated. Was he a tyrant, a patriot, or merely a pragmatist serving the winds of political necessity? Regardless of your view, May 4th, 1654 stands as a defining moment in Scotland's constitutional evolution. The arrival of George Monck in Edinburgh marked the beginning of a short-lived but impactful experiment in union under a republican regime, one enforced by power but undone by the tides of political change. Thank you for joining me today on This Day in Scottish History. I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of the lesser known but profoundly significant moments in our nation's past. Be sure to visit my blog at bagtownclans.com/thisday for more tales from Scotland's remarkable history. Until next time, I'm Colin MacDonald. Haste you back.